we welcome to the show Congressman Lloyd Smucker. Good morning, Lloyd. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Gary. Doing well. Thank you for having me.
And really appreciate you taking a special time to be with us this morning, because we were talking late. You and I were texting late last night, and you were very gracious in accepting that this morning. I know it's a busy day for you. So today, normally Electoral College Day is a day where we send the votes in from the electors in the states, and they're counted before the Congress joint session, and of course the Vice President of the United States, also the President of the Senate, presides over that. Today it's a little different. We've got some special debates going on. We've got marches in Washington, D.C., and we got a number of people, of which I know you're a member, challenging the certification of Electoral College results. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on today and the reasoning behind it.
Sure. And I will be challenging the Pennsylvania electors. That's just several points. One is the Constitution delegates the authority of conducting elections to the individual states.
Right.
But they need to be conducted fairly, uniformly, and in accordance with the law. And then secondly, I think every American wants to and deserves to be confident that our elections are secure and that their vote counted and that all eligible votes are counted efficiently and transparently. And we look across Pennsylvania, and we know that there were unconstitutional measures that were implemented, taken by bureaucrats and partisan justices that really have resulted in millions of our state's voters. They're questioning the election results.
Let me jump in there real quick, if I could, and just ask you a question. What are some of the specifics because I think that's what people are looking for today.
Sure.
In the 2 hours of debate? What are some of the specifics that you're concerned about with regard particularly to the Pennsylvania votes?
Well, again, the legislature passed a bipartisan election law back in 2019 that made changes to the law, and I think they'll be evaluating how they worked and whether they should revisit that. But a year later, just before the election, the Supreme Court took it upon themselves to rewrite that law. And that, by the way, was unconstitutional. They were legislating from the bench. They allowed for unsecured drop boxes in certain areas against the law. They allowed ballots to arrive beyond Election Day. They allowed them to be counted even if they weren't postmarked. They allowed for signatures not to be matched. These are all changes that were made by a court, which is completely unconstitutional. The legislature is the sole authority constitutionally that can make changes to the election law. And then the ballots were counted differently in different counties due to some of the direction that was given by Secretary of State Bookvar. So, for instance, in Lancaster and York County, by the way, the district that I represent, I think the election was conducted fairly, and kudos to our election officials here. I think they did a great job here. But if I sent or you sent a mail-in ballot, and it was received, and if it did, for instance, not have a signature, there was no chance for you to correct that in accordance with the law. In other counties, voters were given an opportunity to change that, what was called curing the ballot. So it was conducted unfairly, and so this idea of one vote for one person just simply was not applied uniformly across Pennsylvania. And so, I think there is. It's incumbent upon the election officials to ensure that the election is conducted fairly, and then that they provide evidence to ensure that the validity of the ballots to the voters when there are questions. And none of that happened in this case. And so, I'm elected to be the voice of the people of my district, and I can tell you there are thousands of individuals across my district who believe that this election was not conducted fairly, and this is the one chance I have to be their voice in this process. As I said, It's up to Pennsylvania. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but talk about the process today, what your schedule is going to look like today in terms of how you're going to go through this, because I think a lot of people are interested in the inside workings of what's going to go on today and what would normally be a mundane kind of task, important
Sure.
but mundane, but today anything but. So kind of lay out where you're going to be at today and the schedule you have to go through.
Sure. So at 1 o'clock, we start in a joint session on the floor of the House with both chambers. We essentially do a state-by-state reading. It's presided over by the Vice President, President of the Senate, and you'll start alphabetically and do a state-by-state reading of all the results. And they will be unanimously accepted. Well, maybe not unanimously, but they will be accepted unless there is an objection from at least one member of both chambers. And when there then is, and again, it'll be done state by state. So when there is an objection by a member of the House and a member of the Senate, then each of the chambers convene in their respective bodies and chambers to debate whether those electors should be accepted. And it's a 2-hour debate in each chamber. And then we come back to vote on it, and then it's a majority vote up or down on whether those electors would be accepted. At this point, I believe, based on what individuals are saying, members are saying, there will be objections to at least 3 states, maybe more. So this is going to go on for a while. We believe it'll go on through the night, and probably depending on how many states are objected to, will end sometime probably Thursday evening or early Friday morning.
So now this 2 hours, is 2 hours per objection or 2 hours for all the objections combined?
No, 2 hours per objection.
Per objection.
My understanding.
Okay.
Having never been through this before.
Right.
We'll see, but we're being told it's per objection. You literally go into debate for each state that is objected to in that way. Sure.
Congressman, one final thought on today's events before we move to the Georgia election, the special runoffs. We're getting to a point where every election now seems to be contested. We're looking at the closeness in our country of where the political ideologies are. They may have been closer, but I can't think of a time off the top of my head where they have been. Is there a danger that our election system is in peril right now, from what you can see, or is that just kind of knee-jerk reaction to the moment that we're in? Your thoughts about that?
Well, we saw it in the last 4 years. 4 years ago, there were Democrats who objected to the president's electors or to various states' electors because they just simply did not want the President Trump to be elected, and then spent years leading to impeaching a president for primarily political reasons and based on unfounded, what they thought was interference in the election. And so, one of the things that I'm calling for, and one of the reasons I'm objecting here, is to your point. We must have election systems that both sides will accept the results and believe in the results and believe that they were conducted fairly. So, what I think, first of all, I think the state of Pennsylvania, where the responsibility lies, by the way, this should be at the state level. There's a lot of work to be done by the state legislature and by state officials to rebuild the voters' confidence in the election system in Pennsylvania. And I believe at the federal level, we should do a commission or some kind of look at, starting with an audit of what happened this cycle.
Well, there ought to be I think there's what's missing right now is a sense of urgency by all concerned to say, hey, if this isn't transparent and open to everybody, hey, something's wrong. We don't want people walking away saying, well, my side won, this time it was a good election, my side lost, this time it was a bad election. We don't want that anymore, and that's where we're sitting right now. I wanted to ask you, and one of the caller just called in and said, are there any repercussions for people in terms of any voting irregularities here in Pennsylvania? Anything that you're aware of right now in terms of repercussions out there, or possible other litigation that we haven't seen so far?
I don't know what you mean by repercussions.
Well, I guess for people who would, we're saying there were irregularities in terms of the voting. From your standpoint, is there any movement now to obviously do more uncovery to that, or is that pretty much rested now with the courts and where we sit at the moment? Obviously, there are questions about it today that you're going to be raising in the debate, but your thoughts about that?
Yeah. Well, what I can tell you is I, from the beginning, from Election Day forward, have been urging people to be patient, allow the system, allow the Trump team. I think any candidate actually should be able to contest the results of the election, track down allegations of fraud, and this needs to be done in a court of law. That's the way the system works. And the Trump team has been doing that in Pennsylvania, and frankly, have failed to show that there was evidence of widespread fraud in a court of law. That just has not happened. They've talked about it publicly. We've seen these allegations, but they've not been able to demonstrate that in a court of law.
Right.
We talk about the reasons for that, but that's just the facts as of today.
Well, and I agree with you.
But again, back to this commission, I think we should do a federal commission that ensures that this election was done effectively, but also then going forward, we've got to get to a point that both sides agree on how an election is going to be conducted, and then is willing to accept the results. And I think there should be audit processes built right into the system. One of the things that is really frustrating to me is that all of these concerns by really millions of voters across Pennsylvania, and yet there hasn't really been a response from state officials. Why aren't we doing audits right now? I mean, we could be spot checking. There's a lot that we could be doing, and it would build the confidence of the voters in a very, very necessary way.
You make a really great point, because people could say, well, we won, therefore it was okay. No, that's not good enough right now with what some of the things and some of the questions that have been raised. One final question for you. Obviously, the Georgia elections, I saw this morning where Reverend Warnock has been declared the winner over Kelly Loeffler, and Ossoff is leading Purdue, the Democrat over the Republican there, by 16,370 votes as we speak. Obviously, this changes the balance of power if this stands. What are your thoughts about the governing in Congress over the next couple of years? About 40 seconds left. Your thoughts?
Well, listen, there's some very different ideas in the direction to take the country, but I think one of the things that voters have said is that they've rejected the radical Democrat agenda. We had major gains in the House. We had gains in state legislatures and so on. Right. And so it's going to be a very, very tight margin. If Purdue indeed does lose here, it's going to be a tight margin for Democrats in both the House and the Senate. And it's going to be up to them on whether they want to work to move legislation that can be supported by the American people, can be supported by Republicans in the House and Senate. I can tell you that we will vigorously oppose a move towards Democrat socialism, which is what many in their party want to happen. But we also understand that we need to work together to move America in the right direction. So, hopefully they'll be willing to do that, and hopefully there'll be opportunities for us to work together. But it's got to be up to them. If they control the House and the Senate, they control the agenda.
Yep, as tight as it can be right now, and we'll be watching and we'll be talking about it. Thank you for the special time this morning, Congressman. We appreciate it. We look forward to next week with you on our normal time, but thank you again, and good luck today, and a very happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.